Good morning and thanks for tuning in to Northwest News. In this week's edition, we will look at an exclusive interview with Northwest President Dr. Lance Tatum involving the dissolution of Northwest Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Theater Northwest Evening of Spring 1X, and more. You are watching Northwest News.
Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to Northwest News, the show where we provide the latest coverage on the Northwest campus and in the Maryville community. It's 11 a.m. and I'm Wiley Ray.
And I'm Skyler Stamps. Last week, students gathered on the Northwest campus to protest the dissolvement of Northwest's Office of Diversity and Inclusion.
Since then, University President Lance Tatum has sent another email to students, staff, and faculty about the concerns of the dissolvement and has made an appearance at the Student Senate meeting to clear up any confusion. Northwest News reporter Skyler Stamps takes us over to the admin building to listen to the concerns of students as well as talk with President Dr. Lance Tatum.
On February 3rd, Northwest Missouri State University announced that it was dissolving its Office of Diversity and Inclusion, according to an email that was only sent out to faculty and staff by University President Lance Tatum. Northwest students have gathered in front of the administration building to protest the dissolvement.
It's actually one of the reasons that helped me choose that I wanted to come to Northwest. It made me really feel welcome because, sometimes who I am, I worry about that I won't be included or, I'll feel kind of alone. But I remember visiting, I saw that they had a table at one of the events and they were really nice and made me feel very accepted and included and encouraged me to be here.
It's one of the main reasons I came here is because of the diversity and the inclusion here. And I was like heartbroken to see that we're no longer going to have those resources available to us.
Students also say how diversity, equity, and inclusion has directly impacted them at Northwest.
My whole life I've been treated like glass or just a general problem because elementary school, middle school, and high school did not have DEI. And now I'm finally being treated like a normal person.
I've attended quite a few things on campus of my own volition because I'm able to learn a lot more about the different communities on campus, opportunities that I have as a student, and just being able to be myself and have this label that I'm proud of and be known that I am accepted for it has been like something that's drawn me to Northwest.
Northwest President Lance Tatum says that he was confident that sending the email to only faculty and staff a week before the students were directly notified was part of a plan hoping that faculty would be able to more understand the national scope and help students process the news. Tatum knew that resources would be available for those who needed it.
I knew that those students who were most directly impacted by the news would have access to Dr. Malone, Ms. Davis, and others in that office that could kind of walk through there. And my understanding is they did have a series of our conversations on Tuesday to try to help them better understand what was going to happen.
Tatum also mentioned how the decision was impacted due to the recent executive orders that have been passed.
My goal has been to put Northwest in a position so that we have the autonomy to make decisions about how we're going to serve students and in which ways we're going to support students going forward. And I would prefer that to be a local conversation and not something that is in Jeff City or at the national level.
Northwest students say why DEI is important on college campuses.
I have Braille choir music because of it. I can navigate campus because of it. Basically, I wouldn't have been able to go to class every day and be there on time and be a productive member of college society if it weren't for ODI.
Sometimes people like us are kind of left behind, and I think that now more than ever, it's important to make sure that we're included and that we're thought about, because community is everything to us.
Tatum had one last message for those wondering what's next without DEI offices on the Northwest campus.
my first priority is to support students. And we're not going to stop supporting students. We're still going to have individuals that, those who feel a bit fearful of what's going to happen, there will still be individuals who are on staff who they can go to and that they can confide in and that they can seek solutions to problems that they think that may be confronting them.
In front of the administration building here on the Northwest campus, I'm Skyler Stamps reporting for Northwest News. To see the full, exclusive interview with President Tatum, click on the link in the description below.
Also, stay tuned to Northwest News each week as we'll give you updates on what will take place of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, along with other inclusion efforts across campus.
Looking ahead, 2 Northwest students directed performances last week over at the Black Box Theater inside of the Ron Houston Center of Performing Arts.
When we return, Northwest News reporter Reece Hill shares more with us about these 2 acts. You're watching Northwest News.
Running since 1971, broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Featuring programs and news from National Public Radio, as well as Americana, jazz, and classical music. KXCV 90.5 FM Maryville, KNRW 88.9 FM Chillicothe.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Gen 2, your favorite place for all things gaming and tech related. Oh man, does that say update? I think that says an update. You wanna try it?
Heck yeah.
Let's do it. That's right, Gen 2 got an update.
But don't worry, we're still your favorite place for all things gaming and tech related.
The Gen 2.0 update will bring all the latest in gaming and tech news, featuring special guests each episode.
So come check out the Gen 2.0 update when we release Tuesdays at noon.
Thank you for sticking with us and welcome back to Northwest News. Theater Northwest is springing into action this semester. Last week, Theater Northwest presented 2 performances directed by 2 Northwest students at the Black Box Theater. Northwest News reporter Reece Hill tells us more about the 2 performances and shares with us the process that goes into directing.
Theater Northwest presented their first productions of the spring semester on Thursday in a spring evening of 1 acts. Both shows featured just 2 characters and focused on heavier topics such as suicide, the death of a family member, pedophilia, and the sexual assault of a child. The first play of the evening, titled Ashes to Ashes, was written by Emily McLean. In it, brothers Charlie and Byron seek to find closure and move on following the passing of their mother. Ashes to Ashes was directed by Northwest student Paige Waddingham. Waddingham says the themes of grief, forgiveness, and healing were major reasons for her choosing the play.
So one major thing that I wanted to focus on is how holding on to things and not letting go of our grievances and healing properly can lead to a not so healthy lifestyle, and how if we truly grieve and forgive, then we can find peace and be our true selves.
The second play, titled Lures, was written by Jeanette D. Farr. In this performance, a man claiming to be on a fishing trip encounters a woman. The strangers share an unexpected connection, but are in the wilderness for more nefarious purposes than meets the eye. Lures was directed by Chloe Peterson. Peterson, who is a first-time director, says she has found a lot of enjoyment in seeing the show come together from a new perspective. Bringing awareness to the harder-to-talk-about topics covered in Lures played a big part in Peterson choosing the play.
It's about a story that I don't think gets talked about a lot. It's focusing on the themes and effects of grooming and pedophilia, and I think that it is such a prevalent issue that no one really talks about, and I think bringing awareness to that and also being able to showcase these stories that are very human and that are real, but we just kind of brush away, is important. And then, of course, having resources for people available if they are affected by those things.
If you or a loved one are struggling with depression, suicidal thoughts, or are a victim of sexual assault, we urge you to contact these resources. For the stories that matter to you, I'm Reece Hill, reporting for Northwest News.
And a great performance put on by Theater Northwest.
Producing one-act plays is a component of Theater Northwest's Lab series, which features productions directed, acted, designed, and stage managed by students.
And if you missed out on these two performances, be sure to be on the lookout for these upcoming performances at the theater, with Dracula, a comedy of terrors, on February 21st and 22nd, God of Carnage on March 28th and 29th, and Pride and Prejudice debuting on April 10th and running through the 13th.
Last week over at Garrett Strong on the Northwest campus, one organization held a competition to help raise awareness for the development of chemistry. Northwest News reporter Zac Scott has more on the turnout of this event.
With all the frigid weather circulating in Maryville, the students of the Gamma Sigma Epsilon Honor Society find ways to heat up the science community at Garrett Strong with their Pie a Professor event. The GSE recently returned this event for the first time since 2017 with a fundraising opportunity with a savory surprise for an unlucky professor. How are professors chosen? Over the past week, students could buy into the event and get paper beakers. Once you have as many beakers you want, you could put them on the door of the professor of your choosing. The professor chosen at the end was Dr. Michael Bellamy. Bellamy gave a quick speech to the crowd of students waiting to see the action unfold. After a brief pause to steal his resolve and one last picture, the crowd got what they came for and saw Dr. Bellamy with a pie for a face. The GSE stayed to help with a messy cleanup after the pie to the face. Even with the joke played on him, Bellamy, along with the rabid crowd of students and faculty watching, all left with smiles and the sound of laughter after Bellamy was a good sport. The donations the GSE received will be used to further promote the development of chemistry research and spreading awareness about the needs for chemistry. The GSE plans on putting on events further into the semester, such as Camp for Kids at Horace Mann and the Eugene Field Science Night. This has been Zac Scott with Northwest News.
An organization putting on a fun and engaging way to fundraise for a good cause.
Northwest Epsilon Alpha chapter of Gamma Sigma Epsilon is a national chemistry honor society for high-achieving students. GSE exists to foster a professional community of chemists and promote the advancement of science.
Coming up, we'll get a glimpse of what the Northwest Missourian covered this past week.
We'll check out some highlights from last week's edition of the Missourian with managing editor Hannah Claywell. You're watching Northwest News.
Welcome to Untold Stories, your brand new spot for an inside look at everyday people. We'll be taking a behind-the-scenes look at anything from libraries to your favorite local restaurant or even your next-door neighbor, showing off all the parts of their day you wouldn't usually see. Finding the reason why people do what they do and what keeps them going each day. All right here on KNWT, airing Wednesdays at noon.
Welcome back to Northwest News, the place where you can find news and whereabouts on what's happening in the Northwest and Maryville community. Thanks for sticking with us.
Last week, the Northwest Missourian included coverage about the dissolvement of Northwest's Office of Diversity and Inclusion.
Managing editor of the Northwest Missourian, Hannah Claywell, tells us more.
Thanks, Skyler and Wiley. In this week's issue of the Missourian, we will take a sneak peek of a story written by assistant news editor Anna Bailey as she writes about the dissolution of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion at Northwest. Last week, an email was sent out by University President Dr. Lance Tatum, which noted the Office of Diversity and Inclusion would be dissolved. The president's emails was filled with unanswered questions that concerned students. Northwest senior Lily Bryant is one of the students who has expressed this. She also serves on the Student Senate and later expressed her concerns in the Student Senate meeting on February 11th. Lily Bryant took to social media first to voice her concern about the removal of the office, stating, "Please do better, Northwest. Listen to your students and give us the respect to address our concerns. We deserve answers." In an email sent on February 10th by Tatum to students, faculty, and staff, he said Assistant Vice President of Institutional Excellence and Global Engagement, Shay Malone, whose formal title was Assistant Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion, will play a significant role in the future of Northwest. Tatum said Malone will continue in her position to lead initiatives to support students. Many students have now protested, pushing back against the termination of ODI. Northwest Communication Manager Mark Hornicle said the office's removal should have little effect on the university. Mark Hornicle said Northwest intends to not only maintain the programs and activities those staff members already coordinate, but enhance them and broaden our support for underrepresented students, including first-generation students, international students, and other student groups. The office has been known up to this point as the ODI. Moving forward, it will be referred to as the Center for Global Engagement. This name change has been updated on the Northwest website and social media platforms. Hornicle said the space previously used by the ODI will still be available to students. Tatum supported this in the Student Senate meeting on February 11th. He also said there will be no effect on student currents earning diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships. Tatum also mentioned at the meeting that the dissolution will have no effect on the DEI minor available at Northwest, as all accessibility offices such as the Title IX and the Americans with Disabilities Act guidelines on campus. Student-led organizations will also not be impacted. To find more stories covering the dissolvement of Northwest Office of Diversity and Inclusion, be sure to read this week's issue of the Missourian. Now back to your Northwest news anchors, Skyler and Wiley.
Thank you, Hannah, and to the staff of the Northwest Missourian for providing us coverage on these stories.
That's all the time we have for Northwest News. Be sure to go to the description below to rewatch certain sections of our show.
And be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for all of the latest news and updates. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope to catch you here next week as we go live every Sunday at 11 a.m. This has been Northwest News. Thanks for watching.